It was a sunny Friday morning in downtown Chicago when Marcus Daniels walked into Bean and Brew, the cozy corner coffee shop he'd been frequenting for years. Dressed in a tailored charcoal suit and a deep blue tie, Marcus carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who understood the value of his time, and everyone else's. At 6'2", with broad shoulders and a calm demeanor, he drew glances from people, though he never sought attention. He ordered his usual, a double espresso, no sugar, and settled into his favorite seat near the window. His leather briefcase rested beside him, and his laptop blinked open to a set of legal documents. To anyone watching, he looked like a man preparing for another busy day at work. Which was true. What wasn't obvious, however, was that Marcus Daniels was one of the youngest appointed federal judges in Illinois. Across the cafe, a woman entered. She was in her early 30s, blonde, wearing designer sunglasses indoors, a cream-colored blazer, and heels that clicked sharply against the wooden floor. Her name was Brittany Whitmore, and if her presence didn't announce her wealth, the way she glanced at people certainly did. Brittany had the kind of entitled aura that suggested the world was an inconvenience she tolerated. She ordered a caramel latte with oat milk, then scanned the room for a seat. The cafe was crowded, but the empty chair across from Marcus caught her eye. She walked over without hesitation. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, already pulling out the chair. Marcus looked up from his laptop and gave a polite nod. "No, go ahead." She sat, immediately setting down her oversized handbag. For a moment, they shared the table in silence, Marcus working, Brittany scrolling on her phone. But soon, Brittany started talking, uninvited. "Busy morning?" she asked. "Always," Marcus replied without looking up. Brittany tilted her head. "You work in finance? Law? Something fancy?" Marcus gave a polite smile. "Something like that." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if she expected him to elaborate. When he didn't, she seemed mildly annoyed. "Well, you look successful." She paused, the word hanging in the air like she was about to say something inappropriate, then quickly masked it with a smile. Marcus, sensing the shift, kept his eyes on his work. But Brittany didn't stop. "You know, my father knows a lot of people in the city. Politicians, police chiefs, judges even. It's important to have the right connections." Marcus arched a brow. "Connections are useful, sure." What happened next was so sudden Marcus almost didn't register it. Brittany's phone slipped from her hand, landing on the floor near his side of the table. As Marcus leaned slightly to pick it up for her, she let out a loud, startled gasp. "Oh my God," she shouted, her voice sharp enough to make heads turn. "Don't touch me." Marcus froze, phone still in hand. Conversations around them halted. Every eye in the cafe was on them. "What?" he said, stunned. Brittany stood abruptly, stepping back. "You tried to grab me. I can't believe this." She clutched her chest like she was genuinely frightened. "That's not what happened," Marcus said, rising to his feet. "Your phone. Stay away from me." Brittany's voice rose, trembling with fabricated outrage. "Somebody call the police. This man just tried to assault me." Murmurs rippled through the cafe. A couple near the counter stared in disbelief. One man fished out his phone, dialing. Others just watched, unsure of what to do. Marcus's mind was spinning. In his position, even a false accusation could destroy his career and reputation. And Brittany looked like the kind of person who knew exactly how dangerous her words were. Within minutes, 2 uniformed officers walked in. Officer Jennings, a tall, stern man with a clipped tone, took the lead. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "She tried to accuse me of something I didn't do," Marcus said firmly, keeping his voice calm. "That's a lie." Brittany pointed at him, tears forming in her eyes. He touched me. I felt his hand." "Ma'am," "Calm down," Officer Jennings said, guiding her to a seat. The second officer, a younger man named Perez, approached Marcus. "Sir, I'm going to need to see some ID," Perez said. Marcus reached into his jacket slowly, pulling out his wallet. "Before I hand this to you," he said evenly, "I want it noted that I have done absolutely nothing wrong. There's surveillance in here that will confirm that." Perez looked slightly uncomfortable but took the ID. As his eyes flicked over the name, something changed in his expression. Officer Jennings?" Perez called, walking over to his partner and whispering something in his ear. Jennings glanced over at Marcus, his demeanor shifting from authoritative to cautious. "Sir. Judge Daniels." Brittany's eyes widened. "Judge? You're, what?" Marcus didn't answer her. Instead, he addressed the officers. "If you'll check the footage, you'll see I bent down to pick up her phone. That's all. And I'll be filing a formal complaint for this false report." The cafe manager, who had been hovering nervously, stepped forward. "The cameras caught everything," he said. "You can come to the office and see for yourself." Jennings sighed, already realizing how badly this was going to reflect on Brittany. "Ma'am," he said to her, "I need you to come with us." Brittany's confident mask cracked. "Wait, you believe him over me?" Jennings gave her a look that said everything. "We believe the evidence." Marcus, still composed, packed up his laptop. "I'll see you in court, Ms. Whitmore." And with that, he walked out, not just as an innocent man, but as a judge who had just been falsely accused in the middle of his morning coffee. But Marcus had no idea this wasn't over. Brittany Whitmore wasn't the type to accept humiliation quietly. The weekend passed, but the incident at Bean and Brew was still fresh in Marcus's mind. Not because he feared it would ruin his career, the cafe footage had cleared him completely, but because of the cold, calculated look Brittany Whitmore had given him as the officers escorted her away. It wasn't the look of someone who regretted being caught in a lie. It was the look of someone who had just decided to double down. Marcus sat in his office on Monday morning, the mahogany desk gleaming under the light streaming through tall windows. The courtroom would be busy later that day, but for now, he had a stack of motions to review. Still, his mind kept drifting back to her. He knew her type, entitled, vindictive, and convinced the world bent for them. In his years as an attorney and later as a judge, he'd seen people like Brittany destroy lives with nothing but words. This time, she had picked the wrong target. Or so he thought. Meanwhile, Brittany was in her father's office on the north side. Charles Whitmore was a real estate tycoon with more friends in politics than in business. His empire wasn't built on charm, it was built on deals that skirted legality without ever crossing the line, at least, not in ways anyone could prove. "You're telling me you accused a judge of?" Charles set his drink down, staring at her incredulously. "It's not like that, Dad," Brittany said quickly. "He embarrassed me. Humiliated me in front of everyone. And the cops, they treated me like I was the criminal." Charles leaned back in his leather chair. "Because you got caught lying." "I wasn't lying," she snapped, then softened her tone. "Not exactly. But it doesn't matter. What matters is he looked at me like I was nothing. I'm not letting him get away with that." Charles studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "What exactly do you plan to do?" "Judges aren't easy to take down, Britt." Brittany smiled. The kind of smile that meant she already had an idea. "I don't have to take him down legally. I just have to make people doubt him." Her plan was simple in concept, dangerous in execution. She would plant seeds of suspicion in the right places. She still had friends in the local press, gossip bloggers who loved a scandal. All she needed was a story that sounded just believable enough to stick. And she already knew where to start. The first strike. By Wednesday, an anonymous post began circulating on a small but notorious Chicago news blog. The headline screamed, Is Judge Marcus Daniels hiding a dark secret? The article was thin on facts but heavy on innuendo, hinting at a recent incident in a public space involving inappropriate conduct toward a woman. No names were mentioned, but the anonymous source claimed the judge had been let off due to his position and influence. Marcus's assistant, Rachel, dropped a printed copy on his desk. "This is making the rounds online," she said, her voice tight. "It hasn't hit the big outlets yet, but you know how fast this spreads." Marcus skimmed it, jaw tightening. It was pure fabrication, but dangerous nonetheless. In the court of public opinion, rumors had a way of becoming truth. "Find out who runs this blog," he said. Rachel hesitated. "Judge Daniels, this could be her. The woman from the cafe." "I'm counting on it," Marcus said. "And if it is, she just made her first mistake. A chance encounter." That evening, Marcus attended a charity gala hosted by the Chicago Legal Aid Foundation. The ballroom shimmered with crystal chandeliers and the chatter of the city's legal and political elite. Marcus mingled politely, shaking hands, accepting compliments, and quietly keeping an ear out for any whispers about the blog post. He was mid-conversation with a state senator when he saw her, Brittany, in a sleek black evening gown, her hair in soft curls. She was laughing with a group near the champagne table, and when her eyes found his across the room, her smile sharpened. She excused herself from her circle and walked over, heels clicking like a countdown. "Judge Daniels," she said smoothly, as though they were old friends. "Fancy seeing you here." Marcus didn't flinch. "Ms. Whitmore." "Please, call me Brittany." Her tone dripped with faux warmth. "I hope there's no hard feelings about our little misunderstanding." He regarded her for a moment. "I don't hold grudges, Ms. Whitmore. But I don't forget, either." Her smile didn't waver. "Good. Because forgetting can be so dangerous. You never know when someone might bring up the past." She tilted her head, watching for a reaction. Marcus leaned in slightly. "If you're trying to threaten me, you're doing a poor job of it." She gave a small laugh. "Not a threat, Judge. Just a reminder." Before he could respond, she turned and glided away, leaving behind the faint scent of expensive perfume and the clear impression that this battle was far from over. Marcus knew then that Brittany's game wasn't just about revenge, it was about control. She wanted him to feel cornered, vulnerable. And while he wasn't easily shaken, he also knew public perception could damage a judge's career long before the truth had a chance to clear his name. What Brittany didn't know was that Marcus had resources of his own, and he intended to use them. The war had officially begun. By Thursday morning, Marcus Daniels had shifted from defense to offense. Sitting in his private chambers before court, he tapped his pen lightly against a yellow legal pad, jotting down names and potential leads. If Brittany Whitmore wanted to play a game of manipulation and public smear, he was going to dismantle her credibility, piece by piece. Rachel, his assistant, returned with a manila folder. "I pulled what I could from public records," she said, sliding it onto his desk. "But most of the interesting stuff. It's not in the public domain." Marcus nodded. "Which is why I've called in someone who can get me what I need." Enter Detective Carter. An hour later, Detective Ryan Carter walked in. He was a tall, lean black man in his late 40s with a sharp eye and a reputation for unearthing skeletons people thought were buried for good. Carter had been a friend of Marcus's since his days as a prosecutor. "I hear you've got a problem," Carter said, dropping into the chair across from him. "More like a problem with good hair and bad intentions," Marcus replied dryly, handing him the folder. "Her name's Brittany Whitmore. I need everything, financial records, prior police reports, social connections, the works." Carter flipped through the folder briefly. "Charles Whitmore's daughter? Real estate guy? That's the one." Carter let out a low whistle. "You don't pick small fights, do you?" "I didn't pick this one," Marcus said evenly. She did. Carter smirked. All right, Judge. I'll see what I can dig up. But if she's anything like her father, she's got insulation. You won't find much without hitting some walls. Then find the cracks, Marcus said. Brittany's smear campaign escalates. Meanwhile, Brittany wasn't slowing down. 2 more gossip blogs picked up the anonymous story about Marcus, adding extra spice. Insinuations about past incidents and whispers about complaints from female court staff. None of it was true, but the repetition was dangerous. By Friday, even local radio talk shows were tossing around his name. Rachel walked into his chambers, her face tense. Sir, the mayor's office just called. They're not pulling support, but they're asking if you want to make a statement. Marcus shook his head. Not yet. Statements feed rumors. I want proof, solid, undeniable proof of who's behind this. The first breakthrough. 2 days later, Carter called. Got something, he said. You're gonna like this. They met in Marcus's office after hours. Carter dropped a stack of printed documents on the desk, photos, receipts, and police reports. Turns out Ms. Whitmore's been involved in more misunderstandings than she'd like the public to know about, Carter said. 3 separate police reports from the last 5 years. 2 alleging false accusations against men she had public arguments with, one involving a store clerk she claimed threatened her. All dismissed after lack of evidence. Marcus flipped through the files. And nobody followed up. Of course not, Carter said. Her father probably smoothed it over every time. But here's the kicker, he slid a glossy photo across the desk. This was taken at the Golden Finch Hotel 3 months ago. She was with a city councilman, married, by the way, when an altercation broke out in the lobby. She claimed the hotel security harassed her. Surveillance footage proved otherwise. Marcus studied the photo. So we've got a pattern of false accusations and public lies. Exactly, Carter said. You put this together right, you'll burn her credibility down before she knows what hit her. Marcus sets the trap. Marcus decided on a precise, surgical approach. If Brittany wanted public theater, he'd give it to her, only this time, the stage would be his. The opportunity came sooner than expected. A week later, Marcus was scheduled to attend a high-profile charity auction downtown. The guest list included city officials, business leaders, and, as Rachel confirmed after checking, Brittany Whitmore. Marcus made sure to arrive early. He greeted colleagues, smiled for cameras, and stayed close to the main floor where conversation buzzed and photographers hovered. He wasn't there for the auction. He was there for Brittany's reaction when she saw him, and for the quiet, deliberate move he had planned. When she finally arrived, dazzling in a crimson gown, her smirk was immediate. She walked toward him, champagne flute in hand. Well, Judge Daniels, she said sweetly, you're braver than I thought, showing your face in public. Marcus kept his tone even. Bravery isn't the same as having nothing to hide. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. Oh, but everyone hides something. Even judges. True, Marcus said, leaning closer, but not everyone leaves a trail of false police reports, hotel surveillance footage, and tabloid-friendly scandals. Her smile faltered for just a second, enough for him to know the words had landed. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. Marcus straightened, voice calm but cold. I wouldn't have to dare, Ms. Whitmore. I just have to tell the truth. For the first time since their coffee shop encounter, Marcus saw uncertainty flicker across Brittany's face. And in that moment, he knew the power dynamic was starting to shift. But Brittany wasn't finished yet, and Marcus knew she'd fight even harder now that she realized he was digging into her past. The charity auction ended without further drama, but Marcus knew better than to think Brittany would retreat. The woman was like a cornered cat, unpredictable, and more dangerous when she felt threatened. 3 days later, he found out exactly how far she was willing to go. The new accusation. Marcus was presiding over a sentencing hearing when Rachel slipped into the courtroom and passed him a discreet note. Call Detective Carter immediately. Urgent. He kept his composure until the session adjourned. Back in chambers, he called Carter. She's done it again, Carter said. Only this time, she's upped the stakes. Marcus sat forward. What happened? She filed a formal complaint with the Judicial Inquiry Board. Says you've been sending her inappropriate messages for the past 2 weeks. Marcus let out a short, humorless laugh. Messages? Yep. She's got screenshots from a burner number, claiming it's yours. The texts are graphic, Judge. If this gets traction, even if you beat it, the headlines will be ugly. Marcus's mind raced. She's faking evidence now. Looks that way. And here's the problem, the board has to take it seriously. They'll open a preliminary investigation. Rachel, who had been listening from the doorway, looked pale. Sir, if this goes public before we clear it. I know, Marcus said sharply, then softened his tone. I know. Brittany's confidence. That evening, Marcus spotted Brittany outside the Carlton, an upscale lounge in the Loop. She was with 2 friends, laughing and sipping cocktails. He debated walking away, confronting her in public might make him look unstable, but his feet carried him forward. Evening, Ms. Whitmore, he said calmly. Her smile spread slow and satisfied. Judge Daniels. Or should I say? Marcus? She savored the name like it was a secret she owned. Enjoying your last few days on the bench? You've crossed a line, he said. Fake evidence is a felony. She tilted her head, eyes glinting. Oh, I didn't fake anything. You can't prove that, of course. And the thing about public perception? She leaned closer, lowering her voice. It sticks. Even if you win. Marcus's jaw tightened. You're playing with fire. And you, she said sweetly, are already burning. She turned her back to him, dismissing him like he was nothing. Marcus walked away, but the words sat in his chest like a stone. Brittany wasn't just reckless, she was calculated. She knew exactly where to strike. The digital trap. Back in his apartment, Marcus called Carter again. She's manufacturing messages. I need to know where that burner phone is. Carter's voice was steady. Already on it. I've got a friend in cybercrimes. If she sent those messages herself, we'll trace the IP activity and location pings. Might take a few days. We don't have a few days, Marcus said. If this story hits the press before we have proof. Then we make it faster, Carter interrupted. Judge, trust me. I've chased scumbags with better hiding skills than her. Pressure from above. The next morning, Marcus received a call from the chief judge. The conversation was cordial but tense. Marcus, you know I respect you. But this situation, it's messy. The inquiry board will need a statement from you. And I strongly advise you to limit your public appearances until this is resolved. It wasn't a suspension, but it might as well have been a warning shot. Brittany's smear was working. She'd managed to shake confidence in him without presenting a shred of real evidence. The break in the case. Late that night, Carter called. Got her, he said. Marcus sat up in bed. Talk to me. The burner phone. Traced to a prepaid card purchased at a gas station in Lincoln Park. Surveillance shows Brittany buying it. Same day the first message was sent. Marcus exhaled slowly. That's enough to bury her. Not yet, Carter said. We need her on record. We set a sting. If she talks about it while thinking she's safe, we've got her. The setup. 2 days later, Brittany attended another high society event, a fundraiser for an arts program. Carter planted a confidential informant in her circle, a woman Brittany recognized as a friend of a friend. Over champagne, the informant casually steered the conversation toward Marcus. Brittany, already a few drinks in, was feeling bold. "Oh, him. Please. I've got him wrapped around my finger. He doesn't even know I can ruin him whenever I want." "And those messages?" the informant asked, feigning ignorance. Brittany smirked. "Let's just say, a prepaid phone and a little creativity can go a long way." The informant's recorder caught every word. Marcus had what he needed, but he didn't just want to clear his name. He wanted the truth to come out in a way Brittany couldn't spin. Which meant the next move would be made in the most public arena possible, the courtroom. Marcus Daniels wasn't just going to defend himself, he was going to dismantle Brittany Whitmore's lies in front of witnesses, press, and the very system she thought she could manipulate. The opportunity came faster than he expected. The Judicial Inquiry Board scheduled a preliminary hearing to review Brittany's complaint. Normally, such sessions were behind closed doors. But Marcus made a strategic request: allow the session to be public due to the nature of the accusations and the presence of supporting evidence. The board, wary of the rumors already swirling, agreed. The day of the hearing. The hearing room was packed. Reporters lined the back wall, pens and cameras ready. Marcus sat at the respondents' table, his suit crisp, his expression calm but sharp. Across the room, Brittany wore a pale pink blazer and pearls, the picture of respectability. Her father, Charles Whitmore, sat behind her like a shadow. The chairwoman of the board, Judge Eleanor Price, opened the proceedings. "We are here to review the complaint brought by Ms. Brittany Whitmore against Judge Marcus Daniels. Both parties will be heard." Brittany was called first. She launched into a performance that could have won her an award. She described Marcus as charming at first and then persistent in unwanted attention, her voice trembling at practiced intervals. She claimed the messages from the burner phone were his, speaking in hushed tones about feeling unsafe. Marcus watched her closely. She never faltered, but that was fine. Her mistake wasn't in her delivery. It was in her arrogance. Marcus takes the stand. When it was his turn, Marcus didn't begin with denials. Instead, he started with context. "Ms. Whitmore and I first encountered each other at a public coffee shop, where she made an unfounded accusation against me in front of multiple witnesses and police officers. Surveillance footage confirmed my innocence. Shortly after, rumors about me began appearing on anonymous blogs." He let the murmurs settle before continuing. "Now, she claims I sent her explicit messages. What she has failed to disclose is that these messages came from a prepaid phone purchased at a gas station in Lincoln Park." He paused, then glanced at Carter in the audience. "Detective Carter, would you join us?" Carter stepped forward, presenting a series of photographs to the board: Brittany at the gas station, buying the phone, the timestamp matching the first message date. The recorded confession. Marcus then played the audio recording from the fundraiser. Brittany's own voice filled the room. "Let's just say, a prepaid phone and a little creativity can go a long way." The effect was instantaneous. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Brittany's face drained of color. Her father shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Judge Price's expression was unreadable. "Ms. Whitmore, would you care to explain this recording?" Brittany stammered, That's not me. That's edited." Carter stepped forward again. "For the record, the audio has been verified for authenticity by a certified forensic analyst." Brittany's lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't speak again. The turning point. Marcus finished simply, "This is not just an attempt to damage my reputation. It is an attempt to weaponize the justice system against an innocent man for personal revenge. I ask this board to dismiss the complaint in its entirety and refer the matter for criminal investigation." The board didn't need long. Within minutes, They dismissed the case against Marcus and referred Brittany to the state's attorney's office for charges of filing a false complaint, fabricating evidence, and defamation. Outside the courthouse. As the reporters swarmed, Marcus stood on the steps, his voice steady. "This case is not about me being a judge. It's about truth. False accusations harm real victims, undermine public trust, and must never be tolerated." In the crowd, Brittany was hurried into a waiting car, her face hidden, her once perfect image in ruins. Marcus knew his career would recover, but more importantly, he knew Brittany's reign of manipulation was over. She had tried to destroy a judge. Instead, she'd exposed herself for exactly what she was. Now that her legal troubles had only begun, Marcus was about to witness something unexpected, Brittany turning against her own father to save herself. 2 weeks after the hearing, the case against Brittany was officially moving forward. The state's attorney filed 3 charges, filing a false police report, fabrication of evidence, and defamation. For someone who had lived her life above consequences, it was a cold, unwelcome reality. But Brittany wasn't about to go down alone. A desperate bargain. Detective Carter called Marcus one evening. "You'll want to hear this. Brittany's trying to cut a deal." Marcus frowned. "With the prosecution?" "Yep. She's offering cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. And guess what her bargaining chip is?" Marcus leaned back in his chair. "Her father." Carter's voice was low. "Apparently, Charles Whitmore's been laundering campaign contributions through shell companies for years. Brittany has documentation. Emails. Bank records. She claims she kept copies in case she ever needed leverage." Marcus almost laughed. So the Whitmores eat their own. The father's reaction. News of Brittany's cooperation hit Charles like a thunderclap. The once dominant real estate mogul found himself suddenly under investigation by federal authorities. The press tore into him, dredging up every questionable land deal and backroom handshake. A photo splashed across the morning paper showed Charles storming out of his office, refusing to answer questions. The headline read, "Whitmore Dynasty Crumbles, Daughter's Testimony Triggers Federal Probe." Marcus read it over coffee, feeling no sympathy. The Whitmores had built their influence on intimidation and manipulation. Now, the same tactics had detonated from within. Brittany's trial. When Brittany's trial date arrived, the courtroom was a spectacle. She walked in wearing a muted gray suit, her hair pulled back. Dawn was the polished socialite. The prosecution presented the coffee shop incident, the fabricated blog rumors, the burner phone purchase, and her recorded confession. It was airtight. Her defense strategy was desperation. She blamed emotional instability, and claimed she'd acted out of fear. But the jury didn't buy it. Guilty. On all counts. She was sentenced to 18 months in county jail and ordered to pay restitution for legal costs. The sentence was lighter than it could have been, a nod to her cooperation in her father's federal case, but it was still a devastating blow to her ego. The father's fall. Charles's case moved slower, but the evidence Brittany provided proved lethal. Federal prosecutors tied him to a network of fraudulent real estate transactions and illegal political donations. Facing decades in prison, Charles took a plea deal that stripped him of most of his assets and barred him from holding any business leadership role again. The Whitmore name, once whispered in City Hall with deference, became a cautionary tale about arrogance and corruption. Marcus's final word. Months later, Marcus was invited to speak at a judicial ethics conference. Standing before an audience of judges, lawyers, and law students, he didn't mention Brittany by name, but the lesson was clear. The power of accusation is real. In the right hands, it can protect the vulnerable. In the wrong hands, it can destroy the innocent. Our duty is to ensure truth prevails over perception, and that the law remains a shield, not a weapon. The room erupted in applause. Epilogue. Brittany served her sentence quietly, emerging with her social circle shattered and her family's fortune gone. Rumors said she moved to another state under a different name, unable to reclaim her old life. Marcus returned to his bench, his reputation intact, stronger, even, for having weathered the storm. And when he passed the old Bean and Brew on his morning walks, he sometimes thought back to that first encounter. One lie had started it all. But in the end, truth had the final word.